They all learn. So they all got together and they bought 3 airbeds and hosted 3 different guests and effectively initiating their groundbreaking bed and breakfast business. What this obviously shows is the power of ideas and getting each other to come together and buying in. Obviously, everybody knows the success story of Airbnb and where it's went from there. As all leaders, we all have a vision for our organization's future. We all have a direction of where we want to go and what we want to achieve, but we don't always know the path and how to get there. So obviously that can be very, very scary. I can tell you that 1 out of every 10 businesses fail. And it usually fails within the first 2 to 3 months. And that's because that sometimes we as leaders don't always understand that our success is dependent on others. It is vital that we get buy-in from all people that are involved, whether it be customers, whether it be employers, whether it be partners. Um, and at this level of once you start working with a board, it's very, very vital that you get your board's buy-in because they're going to support you in your strategic endeavors, hopefully get you to look forward and what can be accomplished. Understanding that trust matters. It doesn't happen overnight. It's built, it's earned, it's demonstrated by your intentions, it's demonstrated by your commitments and your follow-throughs. We want to make sure that we demonstrate integrity in each and everything we do every day. One thing that I commonly tell my department heads is that you're always on stage. You want to make sure again that you understand that every action that you do, every commitment you make, you must follow through on it because you're always being watched. And we want to demonstrate integrity in each and every action we do, not only with internal stakeholders, but also with our external stakeholders. Whose buy-in do you need? We want to look both inside and outside our organization. Who are your customers, your residents? Who are your employees, your board of directors, your community partners, your local representatives, government agencies you may deal with, whether it be HUD, CMS, Department of Housing. Those are all agencies that, again, that you want to make sure, again, that your integrity, your commitment, your interactions are always positive. And definitely with donors. I commonly tell people that vendors are a very huge part of what we do. Why? Because basically they see the ins and outs of your organization each and every day. And they are identifying whether you are a reputable organization or not. And guess what? They have access to your competitors, to your partners, to your other external stakeholders. And they're going to speak truthfully about what they see from time to time. So I commonly tell people, watch the little terrorists that you're letting in your buildings, that you're letting on your properties. You always want to make sure that you show and, a good reflection on them as well and treat them with respect because they are nothing but little fingers out there in the community talking about your organization. Anybody have any comments about regarding our stakeholders? Anybody want to add in, chime in? Nope. All right. Learning what motivates your board. You're going to hear a lot about how to engage a board. And I'm going to be honest with you. Everybody has a different personality. Everybody has different objectives of where they're on the board for. Some are simply enough for reputation or to build their own resume. But you have to get what you need out of your board, and you have to identify who is going to help you achieve your goals. Do they share a common goal? Do they actually believe in the mission in which they're signed up for? Most of your boards are all voluntary. So again, it's very, very hard to get engagement out of volunteers and get the commitment you need. But I can tell you it can be achieved. Within the same organizations, individuals can be motivated by completely different things. You always want to assess your audience to find common ground. Don't be afraid to disagree. There's nothing wrong with that. You want your board to challenge you. You want your board to be challenged. That's how you're going to get what you need out of them. Establish a link between your project, your company's goal, and the stakeholders' values and motivations. Every action, every vision, every achievement, we should always be looking to tie it back into our mission. What are we trying to achieve? How does it best benefit your organization? And understanding there can never be a loser in mutual successes. Again, we are all dependent on each other's common goals and each other's meeting those objectives. You know, I always tell people that I'm a huge basketball fan, and a lot of people are very, almost everybody's going to know who Michael Jordan is, but I commonly tell people that Michael Jordan never won not one of those 6 rings without Scottie Pippen. So, you know, I always fall back on that as an understanding that teamwork outperforms individual efforts. You know, team beats talent anytime. You want to surround yourself with the right people, not only on the subordinate level, but to those you report to as well. Again, those has to be shared successes and shared common goals. You always want to solicit feedback from all stakeholders. Understanding that housekeeper, that maintenance man on your staff, they have very important ideas and they want to know that they are a part of the organization, because ultimately you're going to need their buy-in to continue to be successful. You're always going to need their buy-in. Don't always look to manage up. You should always be managing down as well. And understand that effective change begins when communication flows freely from internal and external stakeholders to senior leadership and the board of directors. Don't just don't just take the saying an open door policy be what it is, a saying. You need to make it truthful in all your actions. Do you actually engage your people when you're walking through your facilities or when you come on your properties? Are you actively engaged in your residents, finding out what they truly are getting or benefiting out of your organization? And then understanding that collaborating breeds ownership of the project and results in greater cooperation, motivation, and innovation. One of the things I look for in leaders is, do they own their own actions? Do they own it? Are you a champion of your own commitments? Because if you are, then guess what? I commonly tell people that if you make it important to you, it's going to become important to others. Don't be afraid to grow. 90% of people that tell you they are successful in life are also going to tell you that they failed once, twice, 3 times. They're going to tell you that because you have to take risks. That's the difference. You have to be able to take risks. You have to be able to understand and know where I failed. And then guess what? Get back up and know I can be better. Richard Branson once said, every success story is a tale of constant adaptation, revision, and change. One can choose to go back toward safety or forward toward growth. Growth must be chosen again and again, and fear must be overcome again and again. Sarah, that's the end of the little icebreaker. So we want to stop sharing and open up the floor, hopefully.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Eric. And just really great reminders for us today and things to be thinking about. Would love to hear more, about your story. Can you give us examples on how you've created buy-in?
Well, obviously, for people that don't know, I've only been in this position now about 3 years, and I took over Cedar Lane after coming from the long-term care spectrum as well as being assisted living. I had independent living background. It's actually where I originally started about 23 years ago, was in independent living with Brookdale. One of the things that attracted me to affordable housing is I've always liked the ability to smile and make people smile. And I thought that I could come here and really, really make a change in a great organization. Cedar Lane Senior Living has been in place for about 46 years. We originally started in 1977. And although we're not a very large company, we are a very reputable company in the Southern Maryland area. We are considered the Southern Maryland's leading provider of affordable housing. And we operate off of hub subsidies, as also we operate market rate properties. Our last property was developed back in 2002. One of the first things I came here and kind of put forth with the board of directors is, what is our strategic goals? Well, they kind of looked at me and said, what do you mean? So what is the strategic plan? What are you going to do? How are you going to ensure you're going to be here for another 40 years? At that point in time, they had not put a strategic plan together. Okay, so we kind of set upon that. And within about 6 months, we had a strategic plan, which can be seen on our website. That kind of demonstrated where we want to go within the next 3 to 4 years. And I set about making sure that people understand that, my goals are consistent with your goals. Being in a small county, we are very, very public. I tell people all the time, even when you're off, people know who we are. Why? Because again, we've been in the community of 46 years. We have state representatives, mothers, sisters, in-laws who've stayed here either now or in the past. So the name is out there, our reputation is out there. One of the things I made them understand that, we are a nonprofit, but nonprofits to me, it means that that's just a tax status. We're still a company, we're expected to perform. We need to identify who our customers are. We need to make sure that we take care of our assets. So again, we don't have to worry about preservation, sustainability, things that I've heard that most people struggle with in affordable housing. We want to run an effective business, and we're going to do that by focusing on what we are as a company, what is our identity. And lo and behold, I started attracting more business-minded board directors to our organization, people who are bank presidents, former business owners, former politicians, people who have worked for Maryland Department of Housing on the state level, who can identify with what we need to move forward. And so again, I start building a support system and also kind of a board that I can bounce ideas off of, who give me genuine feedback. Because again, the information they understood, the goals they understood, the opportunities they understood. So again, that's kind of what we looked at doing. And so we've been very, very successful in getting a lot of initiatives going. We are focused on a lot of quality of life initiatives. We recently secured a grant where we were able to start a wellness program. We've recently, in the last year or so, have brought transportation to our residents. We have provided community-wide Wi-Fi. And I know that a lot of people are doing a lot of the same things, but we're doing them all at the grassroots level. We have attracted a lot of donations and a lot more support. I can tell you that we've made a lot of improvements to the building and to the property and the grounds. We're not even having to dip into our reserves. So I think right now we're just garnering a lot of support. So I'm not very good at touting what we do. I'm more of an action person. So I appreciate it, Sarah, but it's kind of hard. I'm more of an engaged person. So I'd like to hear from you guys. What are you doing in your facilities? How are you engaging your board to get behind you?
Yeah, great question, Eric. Anybody willing to unmute? I see there's nothing in the chat, but feel free to put something in the chat, but also unmute as well.
I'll share.
Great, thank you.
My name is Jessica, and I am the Public Relations and Community Outreach Manager for Rockingham County Rehab and Nursing Center. We're located in New Hampshire, and we are owned and operated by a local county government, so Rockingham County. And our board is made up of 3 county commissioners. So they are the folks that oversee all of the operations for the county, and we do need to have their approval for most things, especially things that cost money. So, like you said before, the board is made up of these folks who don't really have any background in long-term care. It is a paid position, but essentially they're volunteering their time to do this as well. So in recognizing that, we do a lot of education around our decisions. So instead of just going to them and saying, hey, we want a bus, this is the research that we've done, and these are what the other communities in our area have. These are the benefits that it will provide. These are the strategic goals that we'll achieve by doing this. So really, anytime that we go to the board, we're really prepared with that education as well to really justify exactly what we're asking for to get their buy-in.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. Any other folks willing to share what things you're working on, initiatives within your community?
I can say I'm looking at a lot of participants on this call, and one thing that we all each have in common is we have goals. The great thing about it, and in sharing, and I've had the opportunity to work in about 25 different states over my career, and speak at a lot of different leadership conferences, meet a lot of great people in a lot of different organizations. And I can tell you one thing that's always common, that they had the ability to listen to how others did things or how they performed, and they took a little bit out of each. So I can tell you that, don't be afraid to share your experiences, and you may find out that there are people on here who have already ran into the same roadblocks and can make sure that you achieve those goals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Eric, for many of us that have those goals for our organizations, what would you say would be kind of that first step? When you first got to Cedar Lane and you started, you're walking around and you saw improvement that could be made. You started to create your goals for the community. What was your, very first step in having that as a thought in your mind, or an idea on a sticky note on your desk, to a conversation with someone?
I'm gonna be honest with you, not coming from this particular area or demographic, I had to learn my audience. When I say my audience, I had to first learn and identify who were the people that I was here or entrusted to take care of. As a CEO, sometimes you're put on a pedestal, and that's actually a detriment to your success. You need to identify who are your internal stakeholders. Who is my customer? Even in long-term care, it's the exact same way. You have to identify who are your residents, who are your tenants, because again, this is a people business. We may see numbers, we may see only numbers, or how much revenue we're here to save, or how much expenses, but ultimately it does fall down to who are you trying to focus on, who are you servicing. So I think the first step that you do is you assess your situation. You assess your situation, making sure again that you have everybody's interest in hand. And that's how you make proper strategic decisions going forward, because you're going to know how your decisions affect people. And that's what I think I had to do. Understanding the culture, understanding the people that I was here to serve, understanding their background. One thing that we commonly make a mistake of in affordable housing is thinking just because someone utilizes subsidized housing, they may come from either a very substandard background or whatever. That's just not the case. Coming to a large rural area like this, I found out that many of these families came from families who own 100, 200 acres. Okay, where if your family owns 200 acres, you're not out looking for a job. Guess what? You're working on the family farm. That was your business. So you had no opportunity to go to college. You had no opportunity to establish Social Security. You had no record of income. You didn't need to. once you start moving long, late into your life, what did you do? You probably sold off your family's assets. Okay. And anybody who's been involved in Medicare and Medicaid billing, you know that is also a significant factor, knowing that person's background. What is that situation in their asset level? So again, just that's kind of where I started. Getting to know the community. I embedded myself in the local politicians on the municipal as well as on the county level. And then I kind of worked my way up, trying to focus on who at the state level I need to understand and who are going to buy into what I have to do.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. And certainly many of us can think about, successful stories, but then we can also think about stories where, we've hit roadblocks and we've hit resistance. And, we've built that trust with someone, but our idea is just not moving forward as we would hope. And so can you, kind of share with us the process of your resilience in continuing to move forward in the face of adversity or people having different opinions or ideas than yourself?
You're speaking to me personally, Sarah?
Sure. Yeah, anyone on the call. But yeah, do you have anything, Eric?
Well, it's kind of like what I said in the beginning. You can't be afraid to fail. You can't be afraid to fail. If you're afraid to fail, you'll never know what it feels like to get back up. So that's probably the biggest advice I can tell people. Cannot be afraid to fail.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think that goes into Allison's question in the chat, for individuals who are not at the CEO or manager, level, what advice would you give to them and to lead and drive change from where they are? Do you have anything else to add about that?
Well, that's a tricky one. Again, everybody's path is not consistent with someone else's. You have to find out what your own path to success can be. I can only tell you that there are similar factors and similar initiatives that everybody seems to follow, but you have to know what works, especially for you. We had an interesting conversation the other day, me and you. And one of the things that I truly believe in is that personalities matter. When you work with someone or your success is dependent on another, those personalities matter. And even at the board level, and I saw Allison in the chat, that works with frontline employees as well. If you are a middle manager and you are thinking about how do I get to the next level, you have to understand that personalities matter. What is it like to be in that person's shoes? Do I have that sense of urgency to get things done? Do I have that personal commitment, that personal discipline? I tell people all the time, I haven't punched a clock in 40 years, literally. I couldn't operate a time clock if you showed me, but I didn't ever need to, because I always looked at, is my job complete? Did I accomplish what I need to accomplish that day? And moving forward, I think we need to look more at it like that. How can we be more productive, more efficient, and get what we need, and then work toward our quality of life? Because you will find out as you get more and more successful, you're actually going to work less and less hours, because you're going to know how to prioritize what you need to do and turn that 10-hour a day into a 6-hour a day. I hope that makes sense. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Any other questions from anyone joining us today? Again, would love to hear any projects you all are working on, any dreams that you have for your community.
Hey, Eric, this is Allison. I was wondering if you could talk more about the Tomei grant that you all got and how it's going so far, rolling out the program there.
Yeah, Tome Grant is a wonderful grant. It's actually supported by the Enterprise Foundation, which I'm pretty sure many people on here are aware. So again, in affordable housing, you know that there are very limited options for people as far as wellness and benefits. And my whole goal was to make sure again that residents had the ability to age in place gracefully. Well, how is that? How do you do that? Well, you want to make sure again that they have the necessary tools and supportive services available. In addition to offering service coordination, we also utilized it's about $200,000 grant, and we set up a program to where we had professional outside services come on site, physical therapy, occupational therapy, licensed dietitians, and also behavioral therapists to work with our residents, and it's totally free. They are here 4 days on out of the week. And what we found, we've had tremendous success. It's actually about a 40% participation rate in our population. And obviously the goals that we were trying to achieve is we wanted to increase the range of motion. So we wanted to obviously help our residents become much more active, much more independent, decrease our fall risk and our fall incidents that were happening, because obviously as you get older, you're dealing with more frailty, your loss of range of motion. And this usually leads to increased anxiety, increased depression. One of the things that happened or I saw that was extremely prevalent is COVID really did a number on our seniors. It forced them to become isolationists. It increased their chronic illnesses tenfold in most cases because they became sediment. They were afraid to leave their homes. They needed family and friends for social support. That was not available. So again, you know, it was incredible the fallout that COVID did to our most vulnerable population. And so again, I looked at ways on how we can bring services on site to better achieve the outcomes and provide them with a little bit of more dignity and grace. And lo and behold, what we started seeing is a lot more engagement in our community as a result. And again, the Tome grant was only a fraction of what we've been able to do. We brought an on-site nurse practitioner on site. She is doing very well. We have bought 2 new home care caregiver associations on site. We partnered with our local pharmacies, much like I'm sure other people on this call have done. But just again, doing innovative things that facilitate our mission and obviously benefit our most vulnerable and the people we serve, which is our residents. But Allison, it's actually been a tremendous success. Tremendous success. We work with our partners to really develop outcome-based objectives and goals, and they have really joined us and provided us with documentation on how they're achieving those goals and the performance that they've seen already. So we're pleased. We're very pleased, and so are the residents and family members.
That's great, Eric, and congratulations to you guys. Thanks for giving us a little bit of backstory on that as well. Jesse has a great question here in the chat. So we're about to embark on a multi-year renovation here at the towers at Tower Lane. Any advice from leaders on the call about how to keep the why at the forefront while we talk to residents during the process? I know that's a huge piece for us because we're not just building trust and gaining buy-in from staff and stakeholders and board members and community partners, but oftentimes residents as well. And so, yeah, great question about keeping the why at the forefront while we talk with residents during the process. Any thoughts from anyone on the call about that? Any best practices you have?
So this is Carol Kirkwood from New Horizons Village in Connecticut. We just went through a big renovation project that's taken us over the last 3 to 4 years, where we have added some apartments and then we renovated all the other apartments and the grounds, the community buildings, everything. And I think the biggest thing that I learned from it all was to keep a consistent communication going with all of the people, including staff and residents, that are part of it. So that we actually had monthly meetings. It was difficult during COVID, so I then resorted to newsletters and resorted to outside chats, things like that, just because it really squelches all the rumors that go around. It kind of gives people exactly what's going on. And a lot of times I found that there were some key points that some of the actual residents would make to actually, you know, help the process even become better.
Great, thanks, Carol. Any other thoughts from folks?
Hi, everybody. This is Marcy. I have to agree with the last speaker. I found when we did renovations, it worked so much better with that constant communication with the residents. And also we would have weekly update meetings where we would have a representative from the contractor come, and they would also talk to the residents about where they were at in the project and what they were doing. But that communication piece was key. Because as long as the residents knew what was going on, it just worked a whole lot better. So.
Great, Marcy. Jesse, tell us more about the weekly newsletter. What are you putting specifically in that newsletter? Yeah, talk to us a little bit more about the structure of that.
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you great.
Marvelous, marvelous. First off, thank you to Andrea for putting this together. Andrea is such a rock star. I want to make sure that she gets her accolades. And I can tell you that what we did was we found that when we use like our voice friend or our robocall, some people hear it, but some people don't. But during COVID, we found out that everybody reads the newsletters and everybody reads notices that go upstairs. So we had our graphic designer create kind of a standard template that I can use that accepts pictures. And basically I meet with our project manager and on-site super on a Wednesday. And then on Thursday, I carve out some time in the morning to go take a couple of pictures on a digital camera that we got. And I embed those pictures into the memo with just a heads up about when we can expect noise, when we can expect different entrances to be closed. And then we send that out in print on a Friday to the residents. And then we also publish it on our constant contact list. So we email blast it out to families so that should they get a panicked call from mom or dad, that they kind of have an idea of what's happening too and can almost act as an advocate. And then we, every third Thursday, have an ongoing chat with Gus Kichlongo, who's our CEO, and we're going to weave our project manager from Montagno Construction, which is our partner, into that as well, so that we have occasionally a representative from them, but they're also hearing it from us. And then I'm hoping that by mimicking what we did during the pandemic, which is to have this go out weekly, that even if somebody misses one, they'll catch it on the next week. And it'll be something that acts as a good communication conduit, but also almost acts as like a piece of mail that everybody expects, and hopefully creates like a bond with the project so that they understand our why, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Thank you so much for sharing that process. Are there other folks doing similar processes for communications to gain that buy-in and build trust with residents, or something different that you'd like to share? Okay. Well, Eric, I know we have a few more minutes left. Do you have any final words of wisdom for us? Any final thoughts or best practices you'd like to share?
No, actually, the last few people are saying some really, really good stuff. Just, when you are able to develop that buy-in by giving them a say-so and what is happening, what is occurring, then you're gonna get a lot more commitment. We have also planned on a major renovation on one of our projects. We're looking to close on a new FHA loan here in the upcoming months. And it's huge. We've operated, like I said, for over 40 years, pretty much the same way. And we're actually reorganizing our corporation. Just based on some efficiencies and giving us the ability to save on some administrative and operational expenses as well. And so we've kind of been on this media blitz, having weekly forums and doing PowerPoint presentations and bringing in consultants to help residents understand what is going on. And all the while, making sure again that they have a say-so in their success. A huge part of how we put together our strategic plan is those initial surveys. And we are encouraging them to please fill them out. So I think the last few people who've spoken, they already have a good idea of what's going on. We do a weekly newsletter as well, Strollings. And again, it's very informative, but it's always make sure we're focused on the community and what the residents are doing in the community. So again, kudos. They're doing a great job.
That's great. Any last final comments or thoughts? Okay. Well, next month for housing happenings, as always, we'll be meeting, on the third Wednesday of every month from 12 to 1. And so our next time together will be March the 15th. We'll be having a speaker named Jennifer Marana join us. And she's going to be talking about belonging in our communities, belonging within residents, belonging within staff. And so I will have more information on a description of her time with us in the coming weeks. I will also be sending the PowerPoint that Eric put together in a PDF version so you can have and share with your teams. And then also the recording of our time together today. So be on the lookout for a couple of things coming your way. But grateful for our time together. Thank you so much for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you again on March the 15th. I hope everybody has a great rest of the day.